Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for Recipe for Communication. We're hoping that this will be our very first one. Before we get started, I'd like to take an opportunity to thank our sponsors. We have our main ingredient sponsor, Bella Visage. So go down and check them out. They're fabulous and they're great community people. So thank you, Mark and Gina. Also, thank you to Southern Hill Farms, who provided the wonderful blueberries you're going to have tonight. Another thank you to Publix, and also to Aprons, and especially to Jeff, who is our senior managing chef here at Aprons, and he's going to try to show me how to cook tonight. So good luck, Jeff. Without further ado, I really would like to show you a little bit about when you support the center, what activities and things that we're able to do. So let me introduce you to our Teen Ambassador of the Year, Kalina.
Central Florida Speech and Hearing Center has been the premier location for speech and hearing services and care in the Central Florida area since 1960. The importance of awareness for speech and hearing disabilities often goes unreported and underfunded. Central Florida Speech and Hearing Center is one of 3 nonprofit speech and hearing centers in the state of Florida, and the only organization of its kind located in Central Florida. With over 100 patients crossing their threshold every day, the center is responsible for improving the quality of close to 26,000 lives, relationships, and careers annually. To be able to perform the life-changing work the center does daily, which includes anything from hearing consultations to rehabilitation of stroke victims experiencing aphasia or the difficulty of understanding written and spoken words, the 501c3 nonprofit relies heavily on the generous donations of the surrounding community. Funding is necessary in order to continue its essential operation and provide underserved children and adults with life-changing speech and hearing rehabilitation. The Child of the Year is the annual illustration of what a substantial impact the center's efforts can have on a child's life. Although Central Florida Speech and Hearing typically chooses a child to represent the center, this year we have someone very special who has overcome challenges, works hard, and attended the center since 2004. We are very excited to introduce the Teen Ambassador of the Year, Kalina, who has been a patient at the center for most of her life.
I'm Kalina. I'm in 11th grade and I go to Lakeland High School. I like to hang out with my friends and I like to travel places. My favorite after-school activities is theater, dance, baseball, and soccer.
Kalina first came to the center for a hearing evaluation, having difficulty understanding and responding to things said to her and communicated using only single words. A few days later, it was discovered that Kalina had receptive expressive language disorder. Working under the guidance of speech-language pathologist Amy Tyner, Kalina has transformed into an effective communicator and expressive teen. Kalina's mother, Karen, recounts the leaps and bounds Kalina has made over her time at the center.
So at that time, Kalina could not put 2 words together. She couldn't speak in a sentence. She had a hard time communicating. If she was given a question, like if we were at McDonald's, do you want chicken nuggets, a hamburger, or whatever the last thing was what she always picked. It didn't matter what it was. So she has become a 360 since then.
I usually like to do when I usually get into the door, I always like to say hello and I wave and I smile. And sometimes I like to laugh because if I see something funny, I just laugh.
Why I picked Kalina to be our teen ambassador. I've worked with her a long time and I know she has tremendous family support, but also what I really love about Kalina is that she is very kind and sweet and she's really caring and she always really gives 100% to whatever we're working on. So sometimes I can pull out something that might not be the most fun activity in the world and she will still give it her best effort. And she also really takes a lot of pride in being able to use her skills out of here, and that's really important. Sometimes that's a hard thing to get and she's really motivated to do that. And I also see that she has a lot of potential and she loves interacting in the community, and I want to make sure that what we do here helps her with that.
If it wouldn't have been for Amy and her help, there's no telling what what cracks she would have fell through. I mean, it's just amazing what she's done with her.
Kalina is a bright, lively, kind, and creative young woman with a bright future ahead. Yours and our community's support makes these dramatic impacts on people's lives possible. Central Florida's Speech and Hearing Center, providing the highest quality speech, language, and hearing services, always in a caring manner for over 60 years.
Now that you'd have an opportunity to be introduced to our teen ambassador, she's just one of 3,500 people that we see each year and provide services for. So now let me introduce you and give you some details about our main ingredient sponsor, Bella Visage.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gina Parker, and I am one of the owners and nurse practitioner at Bella Visage Medical and Aesthetic Rejuvenation, downtown Lakeland. We are so thankful that you have joined us tonight for this culinary event with Central Florida Speech and Hearing. We are one of the sponsors, and we just wanted to take a moment to let you know who we are and what we do. We're located downtown Lakeland, like I said, and we provide all kinds of wonderful aesthetic services. If you haven't been following us, you need to, because I have been on my own personal health journey. So head on over to our Instagram, Facebook, or website and check it out.
All right, Jeff, now it's time to put you to work.
Oh, good. I was hoping for that today. So I hope you guys are okay with starting out with dessert. Most people, they seem to be all right with it. I think if ever you have the opportunity to start with dessert, that's exactly what you should do. And we're going to start with our blueberry cobbler. Now for this, I've got a couple of large bowls, like that. And for the first one, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start our batter. Now, the first ingredient you know is on there is 1 cup of flour. I want to show you guys how to measure flour when you're baking. Now, if I'm making pasta, I do it totally differently. I'm much more sort of slapdash with it. But when I'm baking, I really want to make sure I got it right on. So when you're measuring flour for baking, you're going to start off, get another, like a spoon, and put it in. What you don't want to do is you don't want to pull it in and pin it to the side like this, because you'll pack too much flour in, and that's not going to end up being the right amount.
I do that all the time.
And that's the deal, is most of us do, when I do pasta, I take a big scoop and I kind of shake it until it's pretty much even, and that's okay. But when we're baking, we want to take another spoon, go ahead and overfill the cup. Then take a straight edge. This spoon happens to have a nice long straight edge, and rake off everything you don't need. And that's going to be our cup, okay? So we'll go ahead and get that in our biggest bowl. And then I asked my staff, hey guys, can you assemble my stuff? I did a food safety course today, guys. I got my recertification, so we know we're going to be safe. And they were nice enough to measure everything out. So I know you guys still have to measure probably a little bit, but that's okay. For the other things you're measuring, we've got a 1/4 cup of sugar, we've got some cornstarch, we've got some other things, some cinnamon. For that stuff, you can do it the way you normally do. You can scoop it and rake it off on the lid. You can push it against. The flour is the one we want to be careful of with that, okay? So for this, we have got our flour. We're going to add our baking soda, and we are going to add our our baking powder, and our sugar and salt. So I've got my baking powder and my salt. And I've got now the first sugar that you need. Your recipe is broken up. Your first sugar that you're going to need is 1/4 cup. So I've got that right here. And we'll just get all that in there nicely. And let's get this out of the way. All right. And then we have to do the butter. Now we talked earlier about the butter. So for the butter, we've got this as chilled. I just took it out of the refrigerator. And now it's your turn. So first, to mix these things together, we've got, remember, our sugar, right? We've got our salt, we've got our flour, and we've got our baking powder. We're going to use a whisk. And the reason is so we can make sure everything gets broken up. I'm going to do the easy part.
A whisk.
We can make sure everything is broken up and all mixed together in uniform in the bowl. And then, if you've got a dough cutter or a pastry cutter, that's great for this. You can also use a couple of forks, which is what we're going to do. And I'm just going to drop these in. I kind of now I feel a little bit bad asking you to do this. I kind of feel like.
Okay, well, I don't want to get anything on my new blue apron, so.
Well, but why wear the apron if not to get things on it?
That's true.
So what we're going to do is we're going to start breaking these
I
up.
don't even think I could break that up.
And as we break it up, using the forks, we're going to start working the butter into our flour and dry mix. So you can see we're kind of breaking it up in here.
You're working so hard, I should have a sip of wine.
You should have a sip of wine. You should have a sip for me, because I can't. There you go.
Yeah, I think I'll keep working hard.
You earned it. All right, so you want to jump in now that it's kind of broken up?
Yeah.
All right, excellent. So you can use 1 or 2 forks, and we're just going to keep working that until we get kind of pea-sized clumps going on in there. I'll just reach behind you and get this out of our way.
Okay.
Okay? Once we get to that point, we're going to add our liquid, but before we do, we got to prepare our baking dish. All right? How are you guys doing? You getting it there? Getting it nice and broken up, stirred in? Beautiful. So in just a minute when we're done, we'll show you where we are, and then we'll mix our liquid. Awesome. Now hopefully you guys have your ovens, you're preheated at 350 degrees. These are going to go in, and then we'll get to cooking the other non-dessert stuff. Awesome. So let's give these folks a little look. So it almost just looks like flour now, because all of our butter is broken into nice pieces and worked in there. Okay? Now again, before we add our liquid, we just want to prepare our pan. So we've got the baking version. You could have whatever version you have is fine. One thing I want to make sure I always tell people when we're using a pan spray, a lot of folks, they do this right here. And that's fine, except it has to land somewhere when it doesn't land in the pan. And so if you just spray it like this, you're going to end up with, this is basically oil all over your floor. It could be slippery, it could be dangerous, it could just be a mess, leave footprints. You could do it like this, but then you get all over your friend. That's not very nice at all. So the best thing to do is, I've got a trash bowl, but if you've got a trash can handy, just do it over your trash. That way, everything ends up in the trash bowl or in the trash can and not all over your buddy, not all over your floor, all over your cat if the cat's hanging out.
Okay, I noticed one thing.
Yes, ma'am.
You said we were using a baking one, and I'm not sure that everybody knows that a baking one has flour in it.
Yeah, it has a little bit of flour already in it. So that's going to help. The way that Chef Adam describes it is the oil is there and the flour acts like ball bearings, so that as things move around, they've got a little bit of something to help them move. So yeah, there's a little bit of flour in there. You can actually smell it, right? It smells kind of like baking. But for this, really, a baking spray, a regular pan spray, any of those is going to be fine. We had a baking spray handy. That's what we decided to use. So now we can finish with this.
Okay.
So adding into that, we're going to do, we've got our milk ready, so we can add our milk in. I don't know if you want to come back or if you want to stay there. I am happy for you to do whichever you would like, ma'am.
All right, I'm going to let you.
You're going to let me do all of it? Okay.
Yes, I am.
That's fair.
Because I don't want to crack the egg in front of everybody.
Because you don't want to crack that. You know what? Now, if this was an in-person cooking class, that admission would mean that she was definitely going to be cracking the egg in front of everybody. But we're not going to do that to you tonight.
Thank you.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
I know these people.
Yep, we had a rule at the start of this that we all need to make sure we have a good time. So I don't want to ruin your good time. But I will tell you guys, let me move my trash bowl. When you go to crack an egg, when you go to crack an egg, a lot of people crack it on the rim of their glass or the rim of their bowl. You want to crack it on a flat surface. Reason being, a flat surface is going to give you the best chance of not getting shell in the egg. So we're going to crack our egg right here, and in it goes. Now, I am going to ask you to whisk this so I can wash my hands, get the raw egg off. How's it going with the whisking?
I got it.
All right.
You know, you can't do this without making faces, though. It takes a funny face in order to stir something up. So if you guys aren't doing this at home, I don't know how you're doing it.
All right. Beautiful. Nice clean hands. Now, the next thing we need to do is we need to add some of our vanilla extract. Now, I'm fairly sure that the recipe calls for 1 teaspoon. Most recipes call for 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. All you need to do to get that teaspoon is flip your cap over and use the cap.
Oh, cool.
Now, here's the thing. It's vanilla extract. If you accidentally put in more, no one's going to mind. It's going to work out just fine for you. Let's go ahead and get that mixed in. Fantastic. Now, what I always do whenever I'm doing something that's got 2 different parts to it is I always like to go back down my ingredients list and make sure I didn't leave anything out. So we've sprayed our pan, we've got our flour, our baking powder, our sugar, our salt, our butter, our egg, our milk, and now we've got some vanilla extract in here. Now, your recipe tells you to go ahead and pour this batter into our prepared baking dish. One thing I want to show you, you guys probably have done this before, right? You're making a cake, you pour the cake batter in, the cake's done, you flip it over, you take the cake pan off, and the middle of the cake is stuck to the pan. Well, the reason is because when you pour that straight down in, all of that oil, all of that fat that's meant to keep it from sticking pushes out. It gets displaced. So whenever I'm adding a batter or anything like that to a greased pan, I move it around as I put it in. And this is just to keep that. Can you hand me one of the rubber spatulas? Mm-hmm. There we go, perfect. Thank you. That is just to keep that. Let me do this in a way that you guys can see what I'm doing. That spray from displacing on the bottom so that nothing sticks, because you can see we're putting this on the bottom, we're going to put the berries on the top. We all know that when you get the cobbler, you've got the berries on the bottom and this on top, so it's got to be able to move while it's cooking, and if it sticks to the bottom, it's going to have a hard time moving. Now, we're done with this for the moment. With our other bowl, we're going to add our berries. So, I've got my blueberries. You like blueberries?
Oh, I love them.
I do too. We also have tasting spoons. You want to taste a blueberry?
Yep, of course. Oh, you have to use the spoon the right side up?
I mean, it's a challenge if you do it the wrong way, but it's doable, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yummy.
So we're going to add our berries.
You know, because we are a speech and language center,
Mm-hmm.
I would be remiss if I didn't say that cooking is an opportunity to help teach children language, because they learn language by hearing you talk. So if they were listening to us right now, they would be hearing all exciting words and new things and new concepts. And just like you gave me something to taste,
Mm-hmm.
we could be describing that to them. It's sour, it's sweet,
Sure.
it's, you know, all the different things and the textures, so that they start conceptualizing
And
language.
kind of add that into their repertoire.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. To our berries. Now, I do have a little bit of cutting to do, but I'm going to do that.
Okay, good.
Yeah, yeah. It's easy. Actually, no. We're going to get you some gloves, and we're going to do some breaking instead of cutting on our end.
All right.
You guys can cut, or you can just break stuff up. It's fine. Either one will work beautifully. So in here we're going to add, we've got our cornstarch. And another 1/4 cup of sugar. And while too much of the vanilla extract is still going to be fine, too much sugar will start to get a little sweet. So we want to keep that at a 1/4 cup of sugar. And we're going to mix these together. Now, you can use a spoon to mix them up. We have a wooden spoon over here. Yeah, perfect. Any of them. You can use a spoon to mix them up. You can do this bit and just kind of let the bowl do it.
Oh, sure.
My mom, well, use 2 hands if you have to. My mom is retired. She has decided one of her goals is to learn how to flip an egg like that. So I told her, and you can do this too if you want to learn how to flip the egg, make some toast and then just put the slice of bread in the pan. And until you can get that bread to flip over, just use that to learn the motion. And you'll be ready to go. And it's kind of the same with this.
I'm going to have to learn that.
Yeah. So we've got our berries and our sugar. We've got our cornstarch in there as well. And let's go ahead and get our blueberries in. Now, the butter. If you guys dice the butter, you're going to drop it on top. You are going to go ahead. We've got gloves for you right here.
Yes. Ooh.
And we're going to break the butter up all over.
Okay.
And then we've got our cinnamon, and we're going to sprinkle the cinnamon all over as well, and this is going in the oven. Perfect. Now, if you don't get the butter exactly perfectly spread, that's perfectly fine. We just want to kind of get it all over the place. All over the place in there. Not all over the place out here.
Oh, I'm glad you were specific.
We have more cooking to do.
I don't have anything on my apron yet, so I was thinking. I bet you didn't know it takes this long to break up butter.
Well, you know, it's about how thorough you're trying to be. I appreciate it.
There are many eyes on me right now.
Plus
And
mine.
Right. And you're the expert, so.
I am here to have a good time like everybody else.
Okay.
All right, perfect. So we're going to take this. This is taller, everyone?
Now you can talk as loud as you want.
Oh, okay.
Am I done with my gloves?
Yes, ma'am, you're done with your
Okay.
gloves. And so while she's taking off her gloves, oh, hi, I'm back. Hi. We're going to go ahead and put this in our oven. It's 350 degrees. And let's go ahead and turn on a light so that later we can come look at it. So are you ready for the next recipe?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get the ingredients for the next recipe, guys. From here, we're going to go to the mushroom soup. That way we can get the soup going. And as it cooks, it's just going to get better. So give me just a second.
You know, one of the other suggestions we have when you're working with your children or your grandchildren is to talk about where the food comes from. Like above the ground, below the ground. Don't forget the colors of the food, whether they're a fruit or a vegetable. And you can work on verbs, chopping, stirring, boiling, baking, all those kind of things will help increase your child's or your grandchild's vocabulary.
All right.
Ooh, mushrooms.
This, guys, is the soaked mushrooms. So you had gotten your dry mushrooms, dry porcinis, and just put them in the warm water and let them soak so they would reconstitute. So that's all that that bowl is.
Did we forget the cinnamon?
Oh, we did forget the cinnamon. You know, we talked about the cinnamon. We thought it was a thing, and then we didn't put it on. And by we, I mean I did not have you put
Oh,
it
no,
on.
that's okay. I was too involved with the butter.
So with this, I would actually pinch it and sprinkle it.
Okay, I did wash my hands. May I?
Yeah. Smells really good.
Yeah.
Cinnamon's one where it's easy to do too much.
Now for me, that looks like a lot of cinnamon, but I'll keep going.
I think so too, so we're gonna go.
Can we like stop now?
Would you like to stop now?
I think so.
Okay.
I don't like a lot of cinnamon. I
That's
like
fair.
a little, but
Yep, people definitely sometimes overdo the cinnamon. We'll get this right back in there. And guys, we're looking at about 45 minutes.
okay. That's why you have an apron, right? To wipe your fingers.
Oh, yeah. So, we're moving into our mushrooms. Now, for the mushrooms, we've got a pot for our soup. And the first thing that we want to do with this, that bowl we didn't need before, if you would please, ma'am, just fill it to about here with just some cool water.
Okay.
Absolutely. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our leek.
Is that about right?
Yeah, that should be fine. We're going to take our leek and put it right there. Perfect. So if you guys have never worked with a leek before, this is basically kind of a kind of onion. Grows up out of the ground. We're not going to use this part up here. It's really fibrous, this bit. Now what you can do, we're going to cut it off right where that green starts to get dark. Now you can take this, put it in a Ziploc bag, put it in your freezer. When you get a bunch of ends of leeks, onions, carrots, celery, things like that, you can use it to make stock. Or if you're making another soup, you can kind of put it in knowing you're going to take it out to get some of the flavor out of it. But it's too fibrous, we don't want to eat it. Put that in our trash bowl. With the leek, the other end is the root end, just like with any onion. So we're going to go ahead and, for those of you cutting at home, we're going to pinch the knife between our thumb and our pointer finger on the blade itself. Then wrap our fingers around. With your other hand, you want to put your fingertips to hold the food and then kind of rock forward so your knuckles are in front, not your fingertip. You don't want to cut off a fingertip. So we'll rock our knuckles forward, cut off the root end, and then carefully hold it and cut it in half lengthwise and lay it on its two flat sides. Okay? From here, there's some of that fibrous bit still there just on that piece. Now, this grows up out of the ground in layers, which means that it gets a lot of dirt in there. Okay, so we want to clean the dirt off. The way we do that is we're going to slice the leek, and we're going to do a down and forward motion as we're cutting. We're going to slice the leek. And then we're going to put it in that water you got for us.
Okay. We're going to give it a bath.
Exactly right. And what that's going to do is the onion, the leek itself, will float, as you can see.
Mm-hmm.
And any dirt and sand and grit will drop to the bottom. Okay, so we're going to let this kind of soak for a few minutes while we cut up our other stuff. All right. We'll just kind of let that hang out for a minute. Cool. We also need some garlic and some shallots, or rather some shallot and some garlics. So for the shallot, we're going to treat this like we would treat any regular onion. The way we're going to dice up our shallot is we've got, again, the stem end and the root end. We're going to cut off the stem end. Then we're going to put that flat side down. Flat side is the safe side. And we're going to cut this in half through the root end. All right?
Mm-hmm. Just for information, in
Yes.
case people don't normally cook with a shallot, what would be what is the advantage of using a shallot over a regular onion?
So the shallot, a lot of people think of a shallot as kind of a mix between garlic and an onion. It's not quite right, but it's got a lot of flavor. It's nicely aromatic. I have seen, if you don't happen to have shallot handy, but you have a red onion, you can make that substitution if you need to. But it's got a beautiful flavor. It's everything in this area, when you talk about shallots, celery, garlic. All of these things we refer to as our aromatics, and this is very aromatic. Beautiful, beautiful little veg here. Trying to get the last of this paper off the outside, but once you've peeled that outside paper, now to dice the shallot. We've got 2, and we're going to take our time with this, guys. Remember, slow and smooth is going to give you a faster result, and it's going to give you what you want. So again, holding our knife appropriately, we're going to start on one side, and we're going to slice through the shallot. I'm going to move nice and slow so you can see what I'm doing. And if you can see, I'm cutting all the way to the cutting board, but I'm not cutting out the back side of the root here. Okay? The knife is not coming out the back.
It's like a little fan.
You're 100% right. It makes it like a little fan. And that means it's going to hold together, right? So now I can turn it sideways. Let's get this trash out of here. I don't want anything to kind of get in the way of what you're looking at. We're going to turn it sideways, and then we're going to cut all the way through. And that is going to give us our minced shallot. Now, any onion this will work with, a red onion, a white onion, Vidalia, etc. You do it just like you do that shallot. So we've got one side done. Let's go ahead and do the other side. I'll talk you through it again so that we can kind of all be working this together. We're going to go straight down, but not go out the back end of the root. All the way to the cutting board. If it starts to get tough to keep your fingertips like that, especially if you're not used to holding things like that, go ahead and do the C grip. Keep your fingers out of the way. And we'll cut all the way down. Turn it sideways. And again, all the way through. So we've got our shallot minced. All right? Now the
You
garlic.
make that look so easy.
I don't know how many of these I've done. The garlic's way easier.
Okay.
Are you guys ready for the garlic? I will take that as a yes. For the garlic, I'm going to go ahead and just cut off this little root end and get rid of that. Then I'm going to take my garlic. You know what? Let me get my shallots out of the way. I don't want to make a mess. I don't want you guys to end up saying, we did what you said, chef, and we got a mess everywhere. So we're going to go ahead and pick up our shallots and just put them back in this little bowl. And then I'll show you the garlic. Now, let's go ahead and get the first garlic. My cutting board, you can see, is sort of towards the end of my table here. Now, you're going to be doing one of these. Just letting you know.
Oh, okay.
It's going to be fine. I'll do the first 2.
All right.
We're going to put the the garlic right here at the edge of the cutting board, okay? Then we take the knife with the blade facing away from us. We're not going to go this way. Don't worry, you're safe. And our hand off the side of the table on the cutting board. Make a fist with the other hand, and you're going to smash down on that knife.
Oh, I can do
Ready?
that. Yep. Woohoo!
Okay. We're going to get back to that.
Okay.
We're not done with it yet. So again, we'll take our clove, cut off the little root end, put it on the edge. Now, it's important that it's on the edge. If it's up here, your knuckles will be in the way, right? You won't be able to smash it.
And you'll bend your knife.
And you can bend your knife. And if you're using a ceramic knife, don't do this. You could break your whole knife. Now, I want it to be a little louder because I'm a little bit obnoxious. So I want it to be a little more obnoxious. So I'm going to punch from way up here. There we go.
Wow.
So with this one, there's almost no work left to do. But we're going to put them together. Now, that one's you.
Okay.
So
I have to cut off the
you want to cut
end.
off the little root end. Get your finger down on the side of that knife. There you go, perfect. And then I would actually turn that so it's, yes. So she had the round side down, and I don't want it to be unstable. I want it to be nice and stable. So hold it. Which hand do you want to punch with?
All right.
So turn the blade towards me. That way the hand that's coming down is not on the same side as the sharp part of the knife. Let me get this out of your way. Now go ahead, and you got to really slam it. Yes! That's how it's done.
Wow.
Beautiful. And you are welcome to wash your hands. And you maybe got a little garlic on there.
Oh, Italian caviar. No, it smells great.
All right. So at this point then, you can just hold the tip of the knife against the board so it doesn't move, and just kind of go up and down with your knife through the garlic a couple times. All right, so we've got our garlic, we've got our shallots, and I'm going to go ahead and put these guys together. And we've got our leeks. Now, last thing, guys, for the leeks, just so that we're ready to use them in just a moment. And this is called mise en place. Mise en place means everything in its place. We're getting all this stuff cut up so that when it's time to cook, we're not trying to do cutting and cooking at the same time. So we're going to take our leeks, take a little paper towel. Now, what you don't want to do, you don't want to dump this into a colander, because all that dirt on the bottom is just going to dump right on top of your leeks. So we're going to take these out and kind of get them on the paper towel, just so any serious excess water can come off. All right. There we go. And we're just going to give these just a moment, kind of pat them a little bit, and that's it. They don't have to be perfectly bone dry. They're going to be fine just as they are. So, leeks, shallots, garlic. You guys about ready to cook? Because it's about time to start cooking, which is more or less my favorite part. The eating is, let's be fair. You don't end up with this sort of, perfect.
I know the feeling.
Yeah.
I enjoy eating too.
Without the eating being one of the best parts. So we've got our soaked mushrooms. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these out, and I'm just going to, they're so soft.
Not to be confused with looking slimy. I mean.
Right. Well, they feel a little bit,
Yeah.
The gills feel a little bit like gills. But these are actually looking pretty good. I'm not going to worry too much about cutting these up a whole lot. You can if you have really big pieces, like this piece is kind of big. You could cut it a little bit. But I'm not real concerned about cutting those up. So, we've got mushrooms, leeks, garlic, and shallots. The last thing, and again, remember guys, we don't want to have to come back to cutting after we've started cooking. So the last thing we're going to do is we're going to cut up some of these guys. Now, the beauty of cutting these up, they don't have to look pretty. They don't have to look real nice, because eventually we're going to puree this soup. So, we'll get our gourmet mushroom blend. And this mushroom blend has some oyster mushrooms, which I really enjoy. That's these guys right here. And it's got some shiitakes, and it's got some baby bellas, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. When I say we're going to roughly chop it up, what I mean by that is you can just take some mushroom and roughly chop it up. Again, we're not looking for any specific size or shape. That's not going to matter with these. So I'm just kind of paying enough attention to not cut myself as we get these chopped up. And take your time with this. There's no reason to try to rush. There's no big race going on. More important that you get them all nicely cut up and not, not you. And that you try to race it. I'm going nice and slow. A couple of you guys that have been to the knife skills class are like, yeah, man, we've been practicing. You're going too slow for me. So we're going to roughly chop these, and then we're going to start with the cooking. Now, I know that you don't want to do a lot of chopping, and that's perfectly fine. This is like the thing I'm good at.
Good.
I used to work at a summer camp many, many years ago. And, you always want to try to impress everybody at the summer camp. So the guy on the archery guy, he would like shoot arrows when people came by to show off. And the sports guys would start, slam dunking the ball. And they'd walk over to the kitchen and all we could do was show them how we could cut. Like that's all we had going on. Look at how cool I am, I can cut. So.
At first I thought you said I didn't like shopping, and I was going to go, whoa, where did you hear that? I love shopping. But chopping, that's
chopping is not what you're here for, right? Two different things. I enjoy both. I'll be honest. I enjoy both. But we are going to have you do some cooking.
Okay.
So let's get another one of these wooden spoons that we've got. And we've got our pot, okay? I'm going to turn the heat on our pot, and I've got some olive oil right here. I'm going to put in some olive oil. You can go right behind me.
Okay.
It's fine. Oh, yeah. I'm going to put in some olive oil. And the thing is to remember, guys, mushrooms absorb liquid. With the olive oil, we're also going to put in some butter. Exactly. That's the appropriate response.
Butter makes everything good.
Now, the reason we're putting in the olive oil and the butter is butter has a very low smoke point, and it'll burn. Oil has a higher smoke point. So putting them together is going to raise the smoke point of our butter, but still have that beautiful butter flavor. So we're going to let that melt and heat up together. Once they've melted and heated up together, guys, we're going to go ahead, we're going to add our aromatics. So that's our shallots and garlic, as well as our leeks. Now what we do not want, and I'm going to tell you guys this now, that way we're not all worried and rushing later. We do not want color on this stuff. We want our leeks and our garlic and our shallots to get translucent, but not get color. We're not going to sear them. We're going to what's called sweating. We're going to sweat them. That's going to let all of their beautiful flavor and aroma come out. And you guys at home, you'll be able to smell what you're doing. We'll be able to smell what we're doing. And they will be able to smell, not you, the Taher, the guy that was with the thing, and the other folks, they're going to be able to smell what we're doing. All right, so we've got it nicely melted. Let's go ahead. Now, when you go to add things to a pot, you want to add them away from yourself and other people. So when you go to add this, we're going to get close, and you're going to go that way because there's nobody over there. Now, at home, you go away from you because you have a backsplash. If I do that, it's going to get on Taher's equipment. We're not going to be friends anymore. So let's go ahead, and I'll hold, and you can just kind of dump that stuff right in there. Beautiful.
Okay.
Beautiful. If you need me to move a little bit, tell me.
Got it.
All right, perfect. Then let's start stirring that around. We don't want it to burn, so I turn the heat down just a little bit. We don't want it to get color.
Yeah, it's cooking pretty fast.
Yep, and I'm going to add the leeks. Now, here's the thing. The leeks are cooler, and as they go in, they're actually going to bring that temperature down a little bit. That's going to help us out some. Okay? So, I didn't use all my blueberries. We're going to snack on these later. All right.
Did you say we're going out to get some of that great Publix ice cream and have
We can
blueberries with it?
absolutely go out and get some great Publix ice. In fact, I might have some sitting in some of these freezers right here.
Or, I bet you might even have homemade ice cream.
We actually might have some ice cream that we made from like another class somewhere. It's possible. It's possible. All right, so these are starting to get, and this is going to be a little warm, so I'm going to grab a towel real quick. But let me pop right here. So these are starting to get a little translucent, but there's still ways to go on some of the leeks. Now the leeks are more fibrous, so they're going to take a little longer. Let's move this around a little bit. We're barely getting a little bit of touch of color on some of the shallot, but that's okay. We've turned the heat down. We've brought the heat down by adding our leeks. So we're going to be fine. Now, we've got our dried mushrooms. If when you were poking around you saw any thick stem action, you'd want to get rid of it. I don't have any of that. We've soaked these well enough. Our stems are really quite soft. It's beautiful. So I'm going to start adding these in as well. That's a piece of shallot, isn't it? It looked like a piece of bacon. I was totally thrown off for a second. Okay?
Gone.
Yeah. And we've got our mushroom blend. Sorry guys, my noggin itches. I don't want to use my hands.
Okay, these look pretty done.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and now we're going to start adding our mushroom blend. Here we go. Beautiful. Now, one of the beauties of this, guys, is you may decide, hey, I love mushroom soup, but I think next time I want to make something different. Maybe you want to make roasted tomato soup. You started off just the same. Roast your tomatoes, but in here, put your garlic, your shallots, maybe some leeks or onions. Don't let them get color, right? We're going to sweat them instead. And the rest of the method is kind of the same. So that soup recipe, the base of how it works is going to translate to any other soups that you want to make.
So when you do the tomatoes, do you put them under the broiler? Or do you
That is
cook 'em?
certainly, you could do it either way. So one thing you can do is you could take, like, for example, Roma tomatoes, cut them in half long ways, put them skin side up, and put them in the broiler. And once those skins are black, pull them out. That way you can just, whoop, skin comes right off, and then throw the tomatoes in. Absolutely, you could do that. How are we doing?
Good.
Smells pretty good. Can you guys smell this? Yeah? Can you guys smell what you're making at home? I hope you can. I hope it smells as good as this. I bet it does.
I probably don't
looks
need to
good,
stir
too.
it this much, right?
Well,
It
you
can
don't need
set
to
for
stir it a
little
whole
bit.
lot. Exactly right. You let it sit for a few little bit, because here's the deal. The only part that's cooking is the part that's in contact with the heat, right? And again, we put those mushrooms in. That dropped our temperature. I'm actually going to turn this up a little bit. That dropped our temperature.
I thought we were just sweating the aromatics, not Roxanne.
Well, you know. And I'm going to go ahead and, guys, with your mushrooms, let's go ahead and squeeze, believe it or not, the extra liquid out. And I'm going to throw these in with those.
Okay.
By the way, these are dried porcinis. Those are the ones I find most common when I'm in the Publix looking for dried mushrooms. If you find yourselves some fresh porcinis, fantastic. And I'm going to go wash the mushroom off my
Okay.
hand.
I'll stir
I will
it.
be right back. Yeah, absolutely. Let's stir it in there. Let's get those mushrooms all added up, getting all the flavor
Ooh,
out
it
of our
looks so
porcinis
good. Yum.
and out of our mushroom blend.
So, is there anything you could do with this?
Oh, we're going to add that back in.
Oh,
Don't you
okay.
worry. We're going to add our stock and our mushroom liquid at the same time.
So does that mean you measured that liquid before you put it on the
Yes,
mushrooms?
Yes, so you guys, I think, hopefully saw this, but 1 cup of water is where we started, right, with our
Okay.
mushrooms. Absolutely. It's a great question, though. Beautiful. Oh, yeah, you want to break that guy up, huh?
Yeah,
It's okay.
it was a little big.
Was he talking to you? Was he giving you a hard time?
Yeah.
When they do that, you got to break them up. Now
It's
go ahead.
I was just going to say it was just like a bad date. You had to break up. I know.
Boom. Get out. In this case, though, you didn't have to, like, pretend you were going to take a phone call and then just, like, whoop,
No, I just,
just take the spoon to it. So I have some tomato paste, and in just a minute we're going to add this. If you guys, when you go to buy it at the store, you get the tube, it's great because you never use the whole can, right? So you use some of the can, you put plastic on it, you put it in the fridge. Then something else goes in the fridge, it gets moved to the back. Then it gets moved further to the back. Then it moves further back. And then a few months later, you take it out and you wonder where you got this microphone from. A little poof on top. And so with this guy, and there's a few different brands. You can use what you need, put the cap back on, it's going to stay nice and good for you for quite a while.
We're sticky.
All right, so now, and again, I'm going to pick this up a little bit so that they
Okay.
can see, but if you can make a hole in the middle there, and hopefully, so that happens, hopefully,
Glad I didn't do that.
no, that's okay.
I have hair.
Yeah, right. You can see we've made a hole in the middle there. The reason for that is because I am going to add some tomato paste, but I want to cook the tomato paste, so I'm going to put it right there. And now let's work that around on the bottom there. Here's the thing. Tomato paste is really, really acidic. It's really harsh. If you ate it out of the tube, it's not going to be your favorite thing. So we want it to actually cook. And you'll know it's cooking because it will start to turn like an orangish color as it cooks. So as you can see it's kind of lightening up some.
Mm-hmm.
As we've started to cook it a bit, we're going to go ahead and mix it back into our mushrooms. All right? And then in a moment, we're going to add some flour, and I'm going to tell you what that's called as well, because there's a name for everything, right?
Do you think this is cooked enough
Oh, yeah.
to mix up?
Beautiful. Let's mix it on in there. Now, here.
Thank you.
And I'm going to hold it, because again, I'm the one with no hair. Did you see how politely she pointed out that I'm bald when she didn't say I'm bald, she said she has hair. That was nice. Now, I can see that you're a little concerned about the stuff sticking to the bottom. It seems like you're a little concerned.
I
about
am.
that. I understand that. I'm going to tell you not to be concerned.
Okay.
And the reason is because
Ooh.
we've got some sherry.
Okay.
Yes. So
So we're going to deglaze with sherry?
I'm just going to smell it for a minute.
Oh, okay.
I love sherry. We're actually not going to use it just yet. Didn't want to forget about it though because it wasn't up here. No, we're going to start out, we're going to deglaze with our mushroom liquid.
Okay.
But before we do, one last thing, guys. Sorry, jumped around a little bit. We're going to add our flour. Now, remember a second ago I said there's a name for everything. All the techniques we're using are French techniques. The French have names for all of this stuff. So whenever you add flour, and we're going to dust it in. Whenever you add flour, man, that smells good. Like this, and then go ahead and stir. The technique is called Singer, and it's spelled Singer, S-I-N-G-E-R. And what we are doing is we're using the bit of fat that's still in there from the butter and from the oil to make a roux. So we'll let that cook a little bit, and then we're going to add our mushroom liquid. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
And you can use that to deglaze. Oh yeah.
I got too much flour up on my spoon, so I was just
Oh yeah.
getting it down there.
When the flour doesn't behave, you got to put it in its place. Like the mushroom. Beautiful. So the best part of this, guys, is you can see it. You can see what's happening in your pot. I'm going to show them real quick what's happening in our pot. You can smell it. You can be right there. And in the meantime, everybody else is way over there, but they can still smell it, and they can't be a part of it like we are, so haha. We're going to go ahead at this point now and add 2 cups of stock.
Mushroom
Ready?
soup is one of my favorite things.
And I'm not measuring. That's about 2 cups. We'll give it just a little bit more. This holds 4. So we didn't use the whole thing. All right. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move this to a different burner just so we can not worry about it and let it just cook. So you keep doing what you're doing. You're doing great. There we go. That's a little warm. Where'd the towel go? Oh, it's hiding behind the stock. All right, so we're going to let that go, and we're going to let it continue to cook. Now, again, we were talking about the tomatoes earlier. We're talking about the mushrooms now. I'll take that.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
I was like, what
trying
do
to figure out where to put it. I
Yeah, I
understand.
know. There's no spoon rest here like I have at home.
So the thing with the spoon rest is the spoon rest has to get washed. We've got the rooster,
Oh.
so I'm going to put the rooster on here, and he'll hold my spoon for me.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, I've worked so hard. I'm going to have another sip
You need
of
to
wine.
go get that wine.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So guys, we're going to let this continue to cook, and the deal is it's going to continue to develop flavor. Now earlier we talked about doing a roasted tomato soup, or you can do a roasted pick your favorite vegetable soup, all the same way. Once you get to this point, you've added your tomatoes, you've done your aromatics, then you add your stock. Now you want to let it cook together. That way the stock itself will take the flavor of our mushrooms in this case and make it into a soup broth. Otherwise, if we were to eat this right now, it would taste like chicken stock with really good mushrooms in it. We want it to all come together. So we're going to let those things cook for a little bit. I'm going to just take a peek over here.
I can smell it.
Oh, we got like 14 minutes left on our blueberries.
Oh, I can smell it though.
Yeah, buddy. So, let's get this out of our way. Let's get this out of our way. The only thing left, if you guys looked at your mushroom recipe, is your parsley and your Parmesan cheese. And at the end, once we make our bowl, we're going to just put that right on top. So we have one more step left on the mushroom soup at the end. Then we'll go ahead and we will put our parsley and our Parmesan on top. I'm going to go grab the last recipe out of the fridge. That's going to be our chicken and pasta and beautiful Fredo.
When does our sherry go in?
Our sherry is going to go in. That's a great question. Our sherry is going to go in when we are finishing the soup.
Okay.
Yes. Don't let me forget, because
That's pretty typical, isn't it, when you finish
It
a
is
soup
not
to put
uncommon
the-
at all. It is not uncommon at all, especially with something like sherry. So if we would have deglazed with that sherry, we could have lost a lot of the specific flavor of the sherry, right? It would have added some sweetness, but we might have lost it a little bit, cooking all of it into everything else. Adding it at the end, it's going to add its own layer and its own flavor. Yep, great question. So coming back down here, let's go ahead and get our stuff on over here. Guess what? We get to chop an onion again. I say we, I mean I get to chop an onion
Okay,
again.
good.
Yes. Yes. So hopefully you guys have already boiled your fettuccine. We are going to mince some garlic again, and you can do that one because you smashed it so well last time. And we've got our chicken. So not a whole lot of stuff here. And the truth is, Alfredo is really, really easy. It came about when American soldiers were stationed in Europe and they went into Italy and they wanted macaroni and cheese. And the Italians said, like, wait, what is that? So they kind of made this up on the fly. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to take our sauce pot. Now I know your recipe says chicken first, sauce later. We're going to do sauce first, and the reason, excuse me, that we're going to do sauce first is so it has a chance to cook and reduce down a little bit and thicken up while we're cooking our chicken. Also, it's going to keep our chicken from cooling off too much before we add it to our pasta. Cool?
Makes sense.
Excuse me, guys. Plus, once we go, so you guys I think got the chicken fillets.
I believe so.
I believe you guys got the chicken fillets. Those awesome chefs I talked about earlier that measured out my stuff, they got me whole chicken breasts. So I'm going to cut these so that I'm working with what you're working with, but once I cut them on the cutting board, I can't use the cutting board again. So that's the other reason we're going to do this second. So we can
Okay.
finish using this, then we can cut our chicken. You got these also? Awesome. So I'm going to show you guys how to do this also. We're all going to do it together. But again, we're going to use our veggies first, then we'll use our chicken so we don't have a raw chicken contamination situation. That, nothing good comes of that. Nothing good comes of that. So, are y'all ready? First
Yeah.
things first, let's go ahead and cut up our onion. Now you only need half of an onion for the amount of sauce we're going to make. Okay? So again, I'm going to walk you through this. We can all do it together. Almost as though you guys like me. It's okay.
Now,
Yes,
just
ma'am.
out of curiosity, why are we using a white onion this time?
Great question. So a lot of times in recipes you will see a sweet onion or a Vidalia onion. I'm not a fan of that practice. I love sweet onions. Do not get me wrong. Okay? But what the flavor from the you just asked the food nerd a question. So I hope you're ready. With onions, inside the cell walls of the onion are two different biological agents. When you break the cell walls, they mix together. That's what burns our eyes. And that's what makes onions like spicy hot. And that's what gives them their flavor. A Vidalia onion does not have more sugar than a regular onion. Most people think it does. It does not have more sugar. So once you caramelize it, it's going to be the same. Vidalia onion has less of those chemicals that make it burn our eyes and burn our tongue. So you can taste the sugar better, okay? So here's the other side of that. When you cook an onion, all that beautiful cooked onion flavor comes from those chemicals, not from the sugar, unless you're caramelizing. So if you cook a Vidalia onion, you're not going to get as much onion flavor as if you use a white onion. You could also use a yellow onion or Spanish onion, that'd be fine. So that's the deal.
Okay, wow.
I heard an interview with a Vidalia onion farmer who explained all of this, and I thought it was the coolest thing. And he finished it by saying, I love this, so I always steal it. Could you put mud and tires on a Cadillac? I mean, you could, but that's not what that car was made for. So take your Vidalia onion, put it raw on a salad. That's what it was made for. And I figured, I mean, we're in Polk County. We can all associate with these things. So we're going to take our white onion. Thank you for that question. That was fantastic. Again, cut off the stem end of the onion. And we'll get this out of the way. By the way, guys, there really is a trash bowl over there. I'm not just throwing these across the kitchen. Flat side down. Flat side is a safe side, right? This side is rolly. Flat side's a safe side. Cut through the root end. One of these halves we can save for something else. If you don't have another use for it, oh man, it smells good over here. I can smell the cobbler a little bit. I'm going to turn the heat down on this. If you don't have a use for that onion, that's okay. After a day or so, it's in your fridge and you realize you're probably not going to get around to using it. Go ahead, put it in the freezer with the leeks, and then use it to make stock one day.
Do you guys have that little rooster out here with your cooking supplies?
Oh yeah, out there on the wall we've got, so see, I like the rooster the best. I'm a fan of roosters. We've also got a pig and a chicken. I love roosters. I got a rooster tattoo. I love roosters. All right, so again, just like with the shallot.
This is a family show where I have a lot of stuff I could say.
I'm going to just leave it all alone. We're going to... The imagination spins. We can pinch the knife between our pointer and thumb, our forefinger and our thumb. Wrap the fingers around the handle once again. We're going to use that fingertip, rock forward. And again, just like with the shallot, we're going to cut all the way through the onion, but not out the back of the onion. All right?
Do you hold all knives like that, or just this knife?
All
This
knives.
big knife.
The only knife that I don't hold like this, so I tell people in class, a lot of people like to do this. The downside to this is the knife can actually move in your hand. Some people do this. I don't understand that. This is not how you hold a knife. This is like a crime. But there's a specific knife. It's curved. It's called a scimitar, actually. It's used for butchering whole sides of meat. That one you do hold like this, so that way you can work between the bone and the meat.
Okay.
But that's it. For everything else, between your pointer and your thumb. So we've done these cuts just like the fan with our shallot. We've got these still connected. Turn it sideways and then carefully just go through, and you've got your diced onions. This bit in the freezer with the leeks. Okay? So we've got our onion. I saw you start to take a half a step closer. You know what's next, don't you?
Yep.
Yep. All right. Let's move these out of the way of the garlic smasher. So we'll cut off the little root end.
All right. correct?
Yes, ma'am. Beautiful. I'll take that little bit.
Okay. At the edge. So,
Yeah.
because I'm going to do it this way.
Yes. There it is. And we'll
I guess we'll need an
so
extra.
as it turns out, there's a whole Publix right there.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure I got more garlic in here. Oh, certainly do.
All right.
I hope you guys can see how
just,
much food is in this fridge.
I'll just keep going.
Yeah. You keep doing what you're doing. Don't let me touch it next time. There you go. All right. Now let's move this one out of the way first. There you go. Perfect.
I kind of like that.
So what are you thinking about when you're doing this? Is it traffic? Is it, I don't know, coworkers?
No,
probably
not coworkers. Traffic, though. A lady made me really mad today, and I had a car full of people, and
So you just kind of had to suck it up and
no,
oh, okay.
I didn't.
Let it out. Fair. Fair.
I don't think she heard me, but everybody in the car certainly did. It was like, lady, make up your mind.
All right.
Ooh, I didn't get that very well.
So now remember, we're going to do the little chop part. You got the chop part? You want me to do the chop part?
Okay, that was
100% up to you.
Oh, no.
So what you'll do is hold this part down, and then just up and like those paper cutters that's
like this?
yeah. But don't let this come up.
Oops.
So instead of rocking, there you go. And that's how we're going to mince up our garlic.
Oop. It wants to. Or I want to. Okay, I'll let you finish it.
Okay. You got it
Thank
pretty
you.
far. So again, we're going to hold the tip down, and then just pick the other side up and down.
Ugh.
You want to jump back?
No.
Okay.
I will have to practice at home.
I'll tell you what. So you can certainly practice this at home. The other thing, guys, if you want to work on the knife skills that you were using a little bit tonight, what you do is you go to Publix, you buy yourself a bag of potatoes. Because a bag of potatoes is cheap. And then you practice your knife cut on the potatoes. Because you do like 2 or 3 potatoes a day. And you'll do like a week of just potatoes, which I would never get tired of. But the upside is once you chop up the potatoes, you can still boil them and make mashed potatoes. You can still toss them in oil and roast off and have roasted potatoes. Like you don't lose anything by practicing with potatoes. So they're great to practice your knife skills with. I used to live with my best friend, and someone bought him for Christmas one year a knife shaped like this by a company that makes very expensive knives. And we went to go cook, and he took out a steak knife to start cutting his veggies and stuff. Which, by the way, most bachelors, that's exactly what we do. Because the steak knife is going to work because it's serrated. And I said, hey, buddy, you got a $120 knife sitting on the wall there. You know, what do you do with a steak knife? He's like, oh, it doesn't work. I said, dude, I promise you it works. So I went ahead, I put a new edge on it, sharpened it down, got it looking good, showed him what I showed you guys. Pinch, wrap your fingers. With your hand, rock it forward. And then cut. And I said, buy a bag of potatoes, whatever else. A few weeks go by, nothing. I said, all right, whatever. You don't want to do it, you don't want to do it. It's your knife. Then I went on vacation for a week. Well, while I was gone, this dude bought a bag of potatoes. And he cut them all up and ate them all. So I came back and he goes, hey, man, you want to make dinner? I said, yeah, let's do it. I said, here, why don't you cut this up? And he goes, okay. I said, oh, really, bro? Went and bought some potatoes. I see how it is. So, yeah, absolutely. Great way to practice and get those knife skills under your fingers. On to, are you ready to make the sauce?
Oh, yeah.
Sauce is super easy. We're going to take a little bit of olive oil. We can grab either a rubber spatula or a wooden spoon. Yeah, wooden spoon's great. I wasn't sure if we still had one over there.
Yep.
We're going to turn on the heat, and we are going to add some oil to the pan. All right, we're going to let that heat up a little bit, and once again, just like we did last time, that means there's 60 seconds left. You guys should see the looks that I'm getting from the other side of the camera of people like, oh, the cobbler.
It smells so good.
Should we count it down? We got 45, 44. No, that'll take too long. They'll get bored. So this is heating up a bit. Once again, we're going to add our aromatics, okay? And we're going to do it away from ourselves. So get nice and close. I tell the little kids in the little kids class, I say, look, guys, you want to get close. If you were at the pool and you were sitting on the side of the pool and I wanted to get in, would you want me to step in or would you want me to do a cannonball? And of course, the little kids always say cannonball. But you want to get close and step in so we don't splash everybody around the pool. In this case, with hot oil. That would not be a very good day. And I'm going to turn this down some. All right.
And we're just sweating these.
Absolutely right. We're just sweating them. Absolutely right. Oh, the timer.
Yeah, I see how you got me doing this while you go get the sweet stuff.
Well, you know. Says the lady who's been enjoying some wine. Part of me wants to drop this just to see how all of you would react.
Who would cry?
All right. What do you think of that?
Wow, beautiful.
Okay. So I'm just going to put this right here for just a moment. I'm not trying to steal your thunder. But we've got our cobbler. Nice, solid crust. Beautiful. And I'm going to turn this timer off. So that's our cobbler. And you can see the berries sunk. The batter rose. And also, I don't know if you guys can see this at home. Hopefully you can. There's a little bit of bubbling going on around the edges. We like that. We like that little bubble happening around the edges. Okay?
Why?
Because when we're cooking this, remember, we didn't cook these berries. We want them to burst. We want them to give their flavor. We want them to make a filling on the bottom. So just like if you're doing a casserole or anything like that, you like those bubbles showing up on the outside. It kind of tells you our edges are looking nice. The edge, my mom loves the corner, right? She loves that edge. We want that edge to have its characteristics that people love. So that's bubble is telling us we're getting what we want. Oh no. For those of you who don't know, Taher laughed, but it was a laugh that kind of said, Jeff, if you do that, it's not going to be a good day for you.
This is live, I can't edit it.
Yep. All right, so we're nicely sweated here. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys what we've got going on. The onions are getting translucent. That's what we want. It was easier to see here, or it is easier to see here than it was with the leeks, because the leeks have so much green going on. But with these white onions, you can see how nice and translucent they are. Our garlic is nice and pale. Now again, I have all the patience of an 8-year-old after a road trip with 3 cans of Mountain Dew, so I'm turning the heat up a little bit just to kind of get this the rest of the way there. But this is beautiful. It smells great. It's got that beautiful onion, olive oil, garlic smell going on. Bring the heat back down. That's beautiful. And we're going to go ahead and add our heavy cream.
Yeah.
All right? Oh, yeah. Well, we didn't add butter, so we got to do this, you know. All right. This was not a whole quart. Don't worry. There's the same 2 cups that you guys are using. All right. That's cool. Missed the trash can. That's why I cook and don't play sports. Now, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to turn on our back burner here. Actually, no, I'm not. I was just joking. I'm going to turn on that burner because I don't want to block the view over here. So let me just get you a pig or a chicken or a rooster or something.
Chicken.
Chicken? Chicken it is. Perfect. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this on. Ooh. And move our sauce over. And we're going to want this to reduce. So that's why we're doing it now. That way we have time to cook our chicken, cut our chicken, season it, while this is cooking and reducing. And we're going to let it reduce. It's going to be nice and thick and saucy and almost where we want it. Then, remember it came from mac and cheese ideas, we're going to add our Parmesan. And that's going to be how we finish our sauce. But we have to get our chicken ready first. So, got our saute pan. We'll get the heat going on that. the heat on low. I want to heat this up, but I still have a little bit of work to do cutting up our chicken. So with the chicken,
This worries me that it's bubbling around the edge. Is that what it's
we'll
supposed
just
to
turn
do?
it down a little bit.
Okay.
No, that's fine. No, you're right on the money. So guys, it starts to bubble a little bit. That's good. Then we can turn it down just a bit because we do need it to reduce.
Okay.
We do need it to reduce. But we don't want to keep it on high the whole time.
All right, I'm coming back
With
to
our
my
chicken,
station.
we're going to go ahead and take care of the chicken.
All right.
Remember, this cutting board is still clean. It just had ready to eat food. It had vegetables on it. We're going to go ahead and put the raw chicken there. So let's go ahead and get this guy opened up. There we go. Now I know a lot of people like to rinse their chicken. There is no need to do that. And if you do rinse your chicken, it is very important that right after you do that, you wash your sink. Because remember, chicken, salmonella. They like to hang out and party together. If you wash your chicken in the sink, all of the stuff that's on the outside of that chicken is now all over the inside of your sink. So make sure if you are going to do that, as soon as you're done, before you finish with the chicken, you scrub that sink real quick. That way you make sure your sink is sanitized again. All right, so working with one of these at a time. I'm going to flip it over first. Got this underside. This is the side that's against the bone. And here we've got a little bit of tissue, a little bit of fat that we don't really want. So I'm just going to very gently and carefully, pulling away from my knife. I don't want to get my fingers real close there. I'm going to go ahead and just clean that sort of pinkish cartilagey bit off. Let's turn this back down. Okay, I've got a little bit of bone and cartilage on this bit, so we're going to do the same thing, carefully. This little bit of fat right here, you can rip it off, you can leave it if you'd like. I'm going to go ahead and clean it right off of there using mostly the tip of my knife. And a little bit here as well. Notice, same grips. And I'll just cut that little bit that's from the breastplate off. Okay. Now, from here we want to actually cut this in half this way. Make thinner pieces. I'm going to flip it over because this is a little uneven, and so I want to be able to see what I'm doing. This side's even. Starting with the thick part. Very carefully. I still got some sinew here I'm going to get rid of real quick. Again, I don't want to get my knife too close to my fingers. So I'm going to pull away and guide my knife gently through. Starting with the thick part, slowly and gently moving the knife through the chicken. Now I've got two lovely thinner pieces. We'll do the same on this side. Again, we've got this little piece from the breastplate here and a little piece of bone even right here. So we'll take that off. Again, pulling away from the knife. You guys are going to get so tired of hearing me say that if you haven't already. Flip it back over. We'll take this little piece of the breastplate and fat off. And this little bit of sinewy tissue, just like before. Excellent. Starting on the thick side. And if at any point you can't see where the knife is, take your hand away. What you don't want to do is put the knife through the chicken and into your hand. So once you get here, you can even move to the other side. That way your hand is all the way away from the sharp part of that blade and right through. Two more nice thin pieces.
Nice.
Okay? This was bubbling and troubling, so I turned it down a bit. I might have turned it down too much. It's okay. That's getting nice and warm. The only other thing we have to do before we start actually cooking this thing is season it up. I'm going to ask you to do that because I got a little chicken on my hands.
Okay.
So what we're going to do, one last thing, and then this will be important in a moment. This is our show side, our presentation side. The cut side is not. On this one, it was uneven, so the cut side is going to be our presentation side.
Okay.
Not super important, but you'll see what I'm talking about in a minute, and it's just going to add a little touch to what you're doing. Okay, so I've got these nicely laid out. I need you to please take our handy dandy salt and pepper grinder and just push that button. Oh yeah. Salt and pepper on both sides of all of them, so we'll get that. And then just flip it upside down. Same button. People will start looking for the button everywhere and they can't find it. It's the same button. Look at that, beautiful. And we'll flip this over. By the way, I love the smell of black pepper, so this is fantastic.
I love pepper.
Used to go to the Tampa Renaissance Festival. There's a guy there that makes incense, and he made black pepper incense, and I used to buy like every year. Lots of it. Awesome. And you can put that right back there. We have a charging stand for it, but we're going to want to make sure our soup is nicely seasoned too, and our sauce is nicely seasoned too. So here in our pan, if you would please, ma'am, let's get some of the oil in here. And I'm saying I don't want to get chicken again on the oil bottle.
Okay.
Once I get the chicken in, I'll wash my hands, guys. Oh yeah.
More?
A little bit. That's good. Now, it seems like a lot of oil, and as it heats, it's going to cover more area. But the thing to remember is this. The oil promotes the dry cooking method that we're using. So parts of the chicken that aren't even, if they're still in the oil, they'll still get that color, they'll still get that cook and flavor. So the oil has to not just barely touch the bottom, but we want it to actually touch the bottom of the whole piece of chicken. And turn this heat back up. There's some tongs there. Absolutely. Thank you very much. Our cream is thickening nicely. We're almost to the point where we can add our cheese. Now the oil is starting to get ripples in it, so it's starting to get nice and hot for us. Let's see if we are where we want to be. Now, when we're putting the chicken in, again, just like before, we don't want to cannonball and get oil everywhere. We want to get nice and close and actually gently lay that chicken right in the oil. And you can hear it sizzling. Well, I can't hear it. Sorry, Tyler. Put the microphone right up there in the pan.
Are you intentionally putting the show side down?
Show side, that's a great question. I'm glad you brought it up. I forgot to say that. Show side down first. You're going to get a nicer, cleaner sear on the side that goes down first. So we're going to do our show side first. That's absolutely right. And that guy doesn't fit. So we'll do that one later, guys. You don't need to watch us do that one. It's for, I don't know, one of these beautiful people. This is for you guys to see. So we'll do the last piece in a moment. I'm going to wash the chicken off my hands, and I'll be right back.
Okay. But you know, one of the other suggestions that our speech and language pathologist had for us was to take your children to the grocery store. And I'm sure you're like, oh my, that is the last thing I want to do. But the suggestion is that you have them make a list, and that if they're old enough to write the list, so they're working on their spelling, and then to learn how to find things in the store. So it can be a very good lesson, and because they're occupied, they might not pull everything down from the shelf that they see that they'd like. A big might, but it can be a very positive experience and a learning experience for your kids.
You can give them the shopping list for this chicken Alfredo, or for the Alfredo sauce, and make it with them. The sauce is so easy. You can even buy the pre-diced onions in the produce department, right?
That'd be a great idea.
And the garlic that comes in the tube, and actually make it with them, without the knife work, make this real easy sauce. Now, with our chicken, by the way, can you smell the chicken?
Yeah.
Can you guys smell the chicken? With our I would feel horrible if I knocked that into the pot. With our chicken, you can maybe see the white is coming up around the sides here. So we know it's cooking up the side. Man, that smells good. It's cooking up the sides. The other thing to understand, whenever you're searing something, especially a protein, if it doesn't come unstuck when you want to pick it up, it is not ready to be flipped over.
Oh.
Like that one's not ready. The sear will release itself when it is complete. Now, that doesn't mean that just because you can flip it, you should. You might get here and go to flip it and say, oh, I want a darker sear than that. I'm going to leave it and let it keep going. But if it won't pick up, don't force it. We always want to kind of make it get up when we tell it to. That's how we end up tearing the meat. And it's going to make us not have a great sear because that beautiful sear is still stuck to the bottom of the pan. So what we're going to do is gently...
You could do that with a steak or whatever.
Absolutely.
Protein meat.
So that's not bad, but I'd like a darker sear than that. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it in there for another couple of moments. We are going to switch some things out real quick. So I'm going to get rid of the raw chicken board. And I'm actually going to just very quickly spray the counter and make sure it's nice and clean. Here we go. Because
we're used to that. We spray everything down at the center all the time.
Yep. And we want it to be sanitized because some people are going to eat this food that I'm making. Woo! And I like all these people, guys. And the last thing I want to do is get them sick. Although, to be fair, if I didn't like them, I wouldn't want to get them sick either. There we go. That's a nicer, darker sear. This one, see, it's coming up much easier than it was. Look at that. We've got these. Well, this one still didn't quite get the color I wanted, but I'm going to flip them over and let them cook some more. Kind of get what my buddy Chris used to call that GBD, that golden brown delicious, on the sides there. We're nice and clean down here. Get a fresh cutting board. And somewhere up here, hopefully, I have a ceramic knife. If not, you just peek right in there on
in
the
here?
counter. Yeah. All right, so. No?
No. Could it be on the rack?
Shouldn't be. It should be just on the counter.
Nope.
All right. We'll figure it out. Don't worry, guys. And we're going to let this cook for a couple more moments. We do want this to fully cook. Okay? Now, if you're doing this at home and you start to get to where you're like, you know what, this takes too long. I don't want to just cook the whole thing all the way through in the pan. No reason you can't put it in the oven to let it finish off. But we're going to let this keep going for a moment. While it's going, why don't you go ahead and grab our cheese. Oh, yeah. Now, anytime you want to add cheese to a sauce, a soup, anything like that, you want to do it without there being heat on the sauce or soup or liquid. Because cheese, just like butter, is protein, fat, and water. Not a whole lot of water. They push a lot of that out. If it gets too hot, it can break. Okay, there used to be a commercial about cheddar's lumpy and oily. Mm-hmm. If you put a block of cheese in your microwave and you try to melt it that way, it does. It breaks, like a sauce can break. If we put that in and let it boil, it's going to break. So we're going to turn the heat off on this.
Okay.
And then we're going to go ahead and add our cheese. You can just dump it right in.
All at once?
Yeah, why not? I like how you pointed it towards me, so if we got splash, it'd be me.
Oh,
that's
sorry.
Awesome. Man.
I had to reach over the chicken.
Hey, Jeff, you're bald. Hey, Jeff, I got some wine. Hey, Jeff, I'm going to burn you. That will work. That'll work. All right, so now we've melted our cheese in. We've got our nice, beautiful, thick sauce. We've got a knife that'll do the job for us. Now, there are a lot of ways people like to check chicken. Most people I know, not in the kitchen, most of my friends and family, they just break it open and look at it. I guess you could do that if you wanted to. You can also use a thermometer. We are, of course, looking for 165 degrees. As long as it gets to 165 degrees for at least 1 second, we are safe. And we are not there yet. But we are getting there. Now, this first one I checked was the thickest one. It's going to take the longest, but that's okay. Our Alfredo is now here. Now, here's what we got to do. I'm sure you'll be up to this. We got to taste it. Now, be careful. That's splattering a bit. I don't want you to get splattered. Here, we'll switch. I'll get splattered. Okay. And you should go ahead.
Go on.
Give it a little taste.
Well,
It's a good thing you got that apron.
yep, it's good. Now I can say I really cooked because I got it on the front of me.
Yep, and you can just throw that in the trash bowl. Now, does it need anything? Does it need salt? Does it need Parmesan? That's a salty cheese. So it may be looking good.
I think it needs a little pepper.
Little pepper? All right, great. We're going to let that last bigger, fatter piece go a little longer. Here's your pepper. And guys, you could use white pepper if you have it, if you wanted to. And you wouldn't be able to see it.
That's probably enough. It
Okay.
won't take much.
Well, here. Find out.
Let's see if I can drip it again.
Well, if you do it on purpose.
I won't. This time I was a little smarter. I think that's good.
Yeah? All right. I love it. All right, guys. So remember, we've got our cheese added. Now we want to go ahead and taste it. Does it need salt? Does it need pepper? A lot of people think you add salt and pepper to add a salty or peppery flavor. Remember, with food, you want to get as much flavor out of it as you can. And the way that you do that, salt will bring out flavor. Now, a lot of people ask me, so when is the point to where there's too much salt? Well, that takes, nobody asked you, that takes time to get to where you can tell, okay, there's enough salt in this, if I add more, it'll be salty. And that's obviously not what you want. So, salt is one thing, acid is another. Okay, now with this, we're good where we are. But a lot of times, especially with that mushroom soup, adding some acid, in this particular case, we're going to use sherry, but lemon juice or vinegar, that brings out flavor. And then the other thing that brings out flavor is capsaicin. You familiar?
I don't know what that is.
Capsaicin is the chemical in food that makes spicy food spicy. Makes it burn your tongue. It's what makes jalapenos spicy, right? So if you add a touch of hot sauce, not enough to taste the hot sauce, just enough for that capsaicin to work, it can bring out flavor. That's what our pepper is doing, in this case.
Oh, okay.
So if you like hollandaise, most people don't realize there's hot sauce in hollandaise. You don't taste the hot sauce. The hot sauce helps to bring out the other flavors. Our sauce is done. Our chicken is cooked. We're going to finish up our mushroom soup. So we've got a couple of options. And the options are a blender or a stick blender. It's up to you which one you want to use, based really on which one you have handy and available. So I'm going to go ahead, get this mess moved around. See if I can light the towel on fire again. So we'll get this out of our way. We're done with you. Nobody wants to hear from you anymore. We're going to turn this back up. And our mushroom soup has just been on a very low cook. Very low cook. Now.
Looks yummy.
It does. It's going to look better in just a moment. And the reason is because we're going to make this into a creamier soup, and we're not going to do it by adding cream. We're going to let the mushroom do it for us. So, take something, anything. A ladle will work fine. and take out some of your liquid. I believe your recipe refers to it as your soup. Take out some of the liquid. And if there's a little bit of mushroom in there, that's okay. Now, if you're doing this with a blender, you can kind of mitigate the thickness as you go. If you're doing it with a stick blender, you're kind of using everything in the pot. So, pull out a little more liquid. There we go. So what do you guys think? Should we do the blender or should we do the stick blender?
Do the stick blender.
Stick blender? All right. I bought one of these back when they were like newfangled and they don't come apart. And this is so much easier. Now, if you're going to use the regular blender, guys, one thing I do want to make clear, and I'm going to just show this to you. You've got your blender. Put it somewhere there's not oil everywhere. Take this little plastic piece in the middle out. Put your soup, some of your soup in. Don't put it all in. Do it in batches. Don't go more than about a third of the way up at most. Put your lid on. Take a towel. Put the towel over the top and hold on to it. Okay? Then turn your blender on. The reason is because this is hot. When you go to get it going, if you've ever forgotten to put the lid on when you're making a slushy, you know it goes everywhere. And this is hot, so that's going to be kind of a bad day. If you leave the plastic piece on, when this first spins, it's going to push out a bunch of steam, and it'll knock the lid off most of the time. And then that hot stuff is not contained. You do it this way, you wrap your towel, you pull it tight. When that happens, the steam has a way to get out because the towel is obviously not airtight. You might get a little bit of soup on the towel, so what? The steam can get out and then it can blend. It's a lot safer and it's easier to clean up. So if you're going to go with the blender, make sure you do it that way. We're going to go with the outboard motor. So, with the stick blender, similarly, you don't want this sticking out because it's going to shoot. So we're going to stick that in and start to blend. Now it's somewhat shallow in this bowl, or in this pot. So I'm going to go ahead, don't worry, you're safe, and tilt it. I'm going to tilt it this way. That way, see, it's still fully submerged. And we can do our puree. Now, what was your question for me earlier? What do we do with the sherry?
Yes.
Yes. Now, we're going to add a little sherry. It's not a whole lot. This isn't sherry soup, right? This is mushroom soup. Mushroom and sherry tends to go really nicely together. That was probably about to be a bad idea.
Yeah. Ow. As well as lobster bisque. Got that with a little bit of sherry on.
Oh, yeah. Now, if you wanted to go full-on frou-frou restaurant pinkies out, go ahead and put this through a strainer. We're not doing that. We want to keep all of this goodness together. Now, if you're using...
Sure, you're getting me back.
Ball's not blind. All right, so if you want to do... if you do it in a blender, it's going to get a little bit more fine than this. This is still a little bit, it's not gritty, but you can see it's not perfectly fine.
We're having rustic soup.
That's exactly right. That's how you make it rustic. We're going to burn the chicken and call it artisanal. So let's go ahead and get this down from around the sides. Now we can add our liquid back in. If the soup is exactly the thickness you like, you don't have to add the liquid. If it's not, if you want to thin it down some, that's what we save that liquid for. And I'm going to add all of our liquid and get all that flavor back in there. Fantastic. You know what time it is, right?
Time to eat?
Almost. Almost. Not that I can stop you guys. If you want to start eating, who am I to stop you from doing that?
Oh, taste it.
Yes, we want to make sure that our seasoning is correct with the salt and the pepper. Be careful, this one's hotter than that one was, because remember we turned the heat off on that one and added cheese.
Needs salt.
Needs salt. Has almost no flavors, it's kind of flat.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And just because I love pepper, yeah, I'd put pepper in it too.
Okay. Thank you for doing that. Because if you're not using a new spoon each time, you may as well just use your finger. There we go. And you can look at the body of this soup and see this is a nice, velvety, sort of creamy soup with no dairy at all. A little bit of butter in the beginning, but that's it.
I think it needs a little bit more salt.
I want to remind everyone of my huge levels of patience. We're just going to do that. Cool.
Thank you.
I'm going to join you.
Okay.
See what we got here. Tastes like mushrooms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Good?
Yeah, very
Awesome.
good.
So guys, you taste your soup. Taste your soup, make sure it's where you like it. A little more salt might get you what you need. If you've added a fair amount of salt and it's still not quite there, add a little sherry. Allow a little more acid to help you out. You don't want to make it salty. So we've got our, oh, that's beautiful. Look at how nice and thick it's gotten.
Oh, yeah.
We've got our Alfredo. I'm just going to turn it back on a low heat to warm it back up. We've got our mushroom sopa. So I've got our pasta. We pre-cooked our pasta. Now, trying to decide the best way to do this with just how it's all arranged. And I think this is what we're going to do. We got one more tongs.
I would have used my hands.
Which is fine. Perfectly fine. So, are you guys ready to eat? I see all of you nodding. I wasn't talking to you guys. I'm talking to you guys. You guys ready to eat? Because it's about that time. So, first thing we're going to do, before we deal with the pasta, before we deal with any of that, we're going to go ahead, get ourselves a bowl. Remember that ladle that we used to pull out some of that mushroom broth? Look at that.
Beautiful.
There we go. Some soup.
Ooh.
A little bit of Parmesan on top. A little parsley. Here's our soup.
Wow.
Okay? Very simple. The method itself is not super difficult. Do your knife work in advance, make your life easier when it's time to cook. I found the knife I was looking for. Of course. Okay? Next, chicken Alfredo. We're going to go ahead and add our sauce to our pasta.
I'll go get a spatula.
Oh, I got my spoon right here.
Oh, okay.
That's I knew I had one. Beautiful. And we're going to restaurant this up. What does he mean by that? It's a good question, Jeff. I'm glad you asked. What I mean is, when you go to plate it, take some pasta, twirl it with your tongs, right there in the bowl. Make it look nice and pretty. We'll do just a little bit more in here. We got a fair amount of pasta going on. By the way, you could always save some of your pasta water if you wanted to and throw it back on the pasta and nuke it for a moment if you wanted to heat your pasta back up, or heat up your pasta water and dip your pasta if you wanted to heat it back up that way. I'm letting the sauce heat it for us. The last thing we have to do is back over here at the cutting board. We've got our beautiful, look at this beautiful chicken. And we're actually going to take this
It's important to let it rest, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. You want to let it rest because the chicken, and really all of everything we eat and everything we are, has a lot of water in it, a lot of liquid in it. So, there we go, all to the side here. A little bit of green. Has a lot of water and a lot of liquid in it, and when you cook it, all that stuff gets excited and starts moving around. Here we go. So if you start cutting it immediately, all that liquid's going to pour out. By the way, guys, Thanksgiving, you got that bird, you cooked it to the perfect temperature, and then somehow it's dry. If you didn't let it rest for 30, 40 minutes after it, because they're big, after it came out, when you cut it, all that juice is going to run out. Same with our chicken. So we let it rest. Then we're going to go ahead and slice it. Give it to our pasta, a little bit of green on top. Finally, by the way, man, there's forks over there if you want to start tasting this stuff over here. I'm not going to get in your way. Finally.
You should let other people try it as well. Do you guys want?
We'll make plates, don't worry.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to go ahead right here.
It's the long reach.
Oh, here. Always make it easier on yourself. Unless you want to get more on your apron.
Doesn't matter now. That is so good.
All right.
I think I could do that at home now.
Yeah, guys, making your own Alfredo is easy. We used to make fun of the guys that worked in the banquet kitchen. Because they'd come home, you know, you all live together, and they go, I was really good. All right.
That's really good. I'm glad I didn't put any more cinnamon on it.
Yeah. They'd come home and say, man, I was really in the mood for Alfredo. And we go, oh, we have everything for that. We got cream and we got Parmesan and garlic. And they go, oh, I just bought a jar. Like, guys, what are you doing? You can put it on, hop in the shower, come back out, add your cheese. You're done. So that's it. If anyone has any questions, we're happy to answer them. No?
Well, I want to
Hopefully
take
you'll
an
enjoy it.
opportunity to
Please.
thank Taher Videography for putting this all together for us and live streaming. And Jeff, you've been great. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Not that I want to get rid of these people, but I'm ready to have dinner. I hope you are too. Thank you so much for joining us this evening and for supporting Central Florida Speech and Hearing Center. We really appreciate all of you. If you enjoyed this, let us know, and we'll try to do another one. Bye.